Hi guys, Michael in Las Vegas. I wanted to take a few minutes and knock out this mandatory reporting video. I'm not gonna put everybody through that whole long list of who is and who isn't a reporter in my state. Suffice it to say that pretty much for the most part we're pretty much concerned with social workers and kind of, just for the sake of argument, let's all assume that that's the case. It is in every single state. Some states differ as far as when social workers and maybe other licensed mandated reporters are responsible to report. Nevada, Las Vegas, Clark County has actually been going through some changes for some of the child abuse reporting procedures that have been needing to take place here in Clark County. One of the most significant changes came about maybe a couple years ago following a rather well-known abuse case that was cited in our local Clark County School District. And first I want to lead up to kind of what led to some of the problems that we had there. When we look at the federal law, CAPTA kind of is the federal approach to defining child abuse and kind of saying what is and is not appropriate as far as kids. For the most part, that legislation is kind of a vehicle by which funding is generated and forwarded to the states and different places to be able to make sure that children are being protected in the states. Yeah, CAPTA has some rules and some things that have some teeth should the feds choose to, prosecute people under it. But for the most part, after reading it, I kind of think it's more of a, like I said, a vehicle just to ensure that everybody's kind of on the same page, meeting minimum requirements. In Las Vegas, we had a young man. He was probably 6 or 8 years old, probably a third grader, and he came to school and he was walking hurt. Staff at one of the schools noticed that he was obviously struggling with what he was trying to get done as far as his mobility and whatnot. And they called him to the office, and this little tiny 8-year-old, he says, well, my mom and my stepdad, they beat me, they hit me with this cord, they do this, they do that, with the spatula and the broom and all this crazy cockamamie stuff that he's talking about. And so as a result, they gave the kid the once over, and they looked at him, and they called the local Child Protective Services agency, and the lady on the phone says, well, do you see any current marks on him? And they said, well, actually, we don't see current marks. What we see is what appears to be older marks. But he's claiming that he was hit this morning on his buttocks area, and the CPS worker on the phone said, well, take him in the nurse's office, drop his drawers, check him out, make sure that there's no of these marks there. Well, the school district employees did not feel comfortable with that, undressing this little guy, and they just simply refused to do that. And they told CPS that no, we're not going to do that. It's not our job. We don't investigate crimes. We're just simply sharing with you what we kind of think might be going on. And as a result, the CPS worker taking the report said, well, as long as there's no current marks visible, i.e. hearkening back to the CAPTA legislation, which identifies child abuse as currently happening, the CPS worker marked it and flagged the case for further review in lieu of what probably could have been an immediate response requirement by their staff. Suffice it to say, Junior goes home that day, and he dies. He's got, severe damage in his brain. His brain had swollen. He'd just been beat real bad. And he doesn't make it to evening. He dies in the hospital. So a lot of things had to take place, and what ended up happening was the school district ended up revamping the way that they make these reports. And this is significant because 40% of all referrals to the CPS hotline here in Clark County come from the school district. They've obviously, were behind the fact of trying to get some legislation passed, and the county and the school district kind of got together and finally made up their mind on what was abuse, how they were going to, respond to these things, and how, different entities were going to get involved, and what the CPS response was going to look like. As a result, school district staff, all 40,000, I mean, there's like a lot of them, have had to take this sensitivity training on abuse, and of course what the reporting protocols are. Staff were, kind of happy to find out that there can be no legal ramifications against them if they make an inaccurate statement to CPS. I think the default is to report, and although they're not supposed to be investigating, let's just get these reports out there. One thing that came of it, which is a very significant change, was that school district staff have to immediately report the abuse to the CPS hotline, not to exceed 1 hour after them identify the fact that there might be an issue. So kind of what we're seeing here in Clark County is the fact that they're really ramping up the reporting. They're going ahead and making sure that staff aren't feeling like they could be sued or all these other things are happening. And at the minimum, they're meeting with their principal, they're meeting with the counselor, they're meeting with the school nurse, all within 1 hour. And the legal language of the new law indicates that they have to immediately make that report to the CPS hotline. And I think I'm kind of seeing that with a lot of people's reports. This language of immediate. But it was interesting, the caveat that they put in that says that they have up to 1 hour to make that report. And, maybe without, some teeth on the other end of it, failure to do so for the first time, and I think for the second time, are actually misdemeanors. And after the third time, a mandated reporter who fails to do so can actually be charged and found guilty of a felony. And, I just don't have a question for you guys. I just wanted to kind of put that out there and just say that we're kind of seeing some of the things that you guys have described in your areas here in Clark County. And you guys got any comments on that? Please, feel free. I know the goal of this is to kind of stimulate conversation, but as far as specific questions, it's kind of more of an informational type post, and I hope Carol can appreciate that. If you guys have any comments, let me know, and we'll go ahead and try to get those answered up for you guys. Have a great night, and look forward to hearing from you guys. Bye-bye.